Okay, so picture this. I walked into my apartment and the first thing I noticed was the silence. Not the usual peaceful silence, but the kind that screams something is wrong. My cat, Luna, a beautiful, fluffy calico with eyes like melted gold, was nowhere to be found. And then I saw it. An open window, a faint meow from outside, and my roommate Mark looking entirely too innocent. He tried to steal my cat, my companion, my furry little shadow. But what he didn't realize was that I wasn't just going to let that slide. Oh no, I had a plan. A meticulously crafted, delightfully devious plan to turn the tables on him. Was I wrong for what I did? Tell me, honestly, would you have done the same thing? Let's rewind a bit. Back to how this whole nightmare even began. I had just moved into a new apartment. A decent 2-bedroom place in a pretty good neighborhood, but the rent was steep. So naturally, I needed a roommate. I posted an ad online, and after sifting through some truly questionable characters, I found Mark. On paper, he seemed perfect. He was a software engineer, seemed quiet, and even mentioned he liked animals. Red flag number 1, I guess, was that he liked animals but didn't have any of his own. I, on the other hand, had Luna. Luna isn't just a cat. She's family. I got her during one of the toughest times in my life, right after a bad breakup and losing my job. She was a tiny, scrawny kitten then, and nursing her back to health, seeing her transform into the regal creature she is today, it truly saved me. She's my confidant, my comfort, my constant source of purrs and headbutts. So when Mark moved in, one of my absolute non-negotiables was that Luna was part of the package. He assured me it was no problem. He loved cats. He even had a cat growing up. Yada, yada, yada. Everything seemed fine for the first few weeks. Mark was polite, kept to himself, and even occasionally scratched Luna behind the ears when she graced him with her presence. But then things started to subtly shift. It began with small comments. Luna is such a beautiful cat, you're so lucky. Or she's so intelligent, isn't she? At first I just took them as compliments. Who wouldn't want to hear their pet is wonderful? Then he started spending more time in the living room, always when Luna was around. He'd sit on the floor trying to coax her to play, offering her treats, and treats I hadn't bought. I remember asking him about it, and he just shrugged, saying he thought she looked a little thin and he just wanted to make sure she was getting enough. That struck me as odd because Luna is far from thin, and she eats like a queen. I started noticing other things. My expensive cat food, the fancy grain-free stuff Luna thrives on, seemed to be disappearing faster than usual. My spare litter, which I kept in a sealed container, also diminished mysteriously. I confronted him about it gently at first. I said, "Hey Mark, I noticed the cat food is going down quickly. Are you giving Luna extra servings?" He just looked at me with those wide, innocent eyes and said, "Oh, I just gave her a little bit more. She seemed hungry. Sorry, I won't do it again." But he did. It wasn't just the food. He started trying to take over Luna's care. He'd scoop her litter box without asking, which, while helpful on the surface, felt intrusive. He'd even try to brush her, which Luna absolutely despises unless it's me doing it. She'd squirm and hiss, and he'd just laugh, saying, "Oh, you're a feisty one, aren't you?" It felt less like he was helping, and more like he was trying to establish himself as her primary caregiver. My gut feeling, that little voice of warning in the back of my head, started screaming at me. This wasn't normal roommate behavior. This was possessive. The tipping point came when I found him in my room, yes, my room, with Luna on his lap. My door was always closed when I wasn't in there, a rule we had established. I walked in and he jumped, startling Luna, who immediately leapt off his lap and darted under my bed. He mumbled something about looking for his phone charger and seeing my door ajar, but I knew that was a lie. My door had been firmly shut. His face was flushed and his eyes wouldn't meet mine. That night I couldn't sleep. I just lay there listening to the hum of the refrigerator, my mind racing. I started connecting the dots. The excessive compliments, the unapproved treats, the food and litter vanishing, the attempts to take over her care, and now entering my private space. It all added up to one deeply unsettling conclusion. Mark wanted Luna. He didn't just like her. He wanted to take her. I even started noticing that he'd refer to her as my cat when talking to friends on the phone. A detail I picked up on because our walls were pretty thin. He'd say things like, "Yeah, my cat Luna is being a menace today," or "I gotta go, my cat needs to be fed." My blood would run cold every time. I tried talking to him again, more firmly this time. "Mark," I said, trying to keep my voice even, "I appreciate you liking Luna, but she's my cat and I'm responsible for her care. Please don't feed her extra food or come into my room when I'm not there." He got defensive, almost angry. I'm just trying to be helpful. What's your problem? You're overreacting. His reaction confirmed my suspicions. He wasn't just being helpful. He was trying to stake a claim. From that moment on, I started taking precautions. I bought a lock for my bedroom door and kept Luna's food and litter inside. I tried to keep her with me as much as possible, even taking her into my room when I left for work, but that wasn't always feasible. Luna loves to explore, and I didn't want to confine her. The tension in the apartment became palpable. It was a cold war with Luna as the prize. Every time I saw him look at her, a chill would run down my spine. Then came the day I mentioned earlier. I got home from work and the apartment was unnaturally quiet. My heart immediately sank. Luna? I called out, my voice laced with dread. No response. I checked my room. Door unlocked, which was strange because I always lock it now. My window was open. I rushed to it, leaning out, calling her name. And then I saw him, down on the street below, holding Luna in his arms, whispering to her, trying to coax her into a carrier bag that he had clearly snuck out of the apartment. My world tilted. He wasn't just trying to steal her. He was actively doing it. He looked up, saw me, and his face drained of all color. He mumbled something about taking her for a walk, and she got out. But his flimsy excuses crumbled under my furious gaze. I ran downstairs, snatched Luna from his arms, and cradled her tightly. She was visibly distressed, her little heart pounding against my chest. I told him in no uncertain terms that if he ever tried something like that again, I would call the police. He just stood there looking defeated, but I could see the resentment simmering beneath the surface. That night, I put an emergency pet tag on Luna with my contact information. Even though she was strictly an indoor cat, the thought of her being out there alone with him was enough to make me physically ill. I knew then and there that I couldn't live with him anymore. But just kicking him out wasn't enough. He had violated my trust, my home, and my beloved pet. He needed to learn a lesson, a memorable, deeply inconvenient lesson. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Seriously, put yourself in my position. My cat, my anchor, my best friend was almost stolen by the person I shared a home with. What would your revenge look like? What would you do? Okay, so I spent the next few days stewing, planning, and observing. I needed to know his routines, his weaknesses, and how I could hit him where it hurt the most. Mark was incredibly reliant on his computer. He was a software engineer, and his entire life, it seemed, revolved around his desktop, his multiple monitors, and his elaborate gaming setup. He was also a clean freak, almost obsessively so about his own space, but strangely indifferent to communal areas. And here's the kicker. He always left his external hard drive, the one he used for backups and for his most precious project files, plugged into his computer, sitting precariously on the edge of his desk. He'd often forget to properly eject it before just yanking it out, a habit that always made me cringe, knowing the potential for data corruption. This, I decided, was my target. This was where I would turn the tables. My plan was simple, yet elegant in its cruelty. I wasn't going to destroy his hard drive. Oh no. That would be too obvious, too easily traced back to me. My goal was to make his life a living hell, to sow chaos and inconvenience, and to make him question his own sanity, all while maintaining plausible deniability. I waited for a day when I knew he would be out of the apartment for an extended period. He had a weekly Dungeons & Dragons game that lasted for hours, usually starting in the late afternoon. As soon as I heard his car pull out of the driveway, I put on some gloves. Just to be safe, no fingerprints, right? And entered his room. My heart was pounding, a mix of adrenaline and righteous indignation. I located his external hard drive. It was a sleek black drive, filled with years of his digital life. Instead of destroying it, I decided to take it on a journey. A very, very long journey. I didn't just hide it in the apartment. That would be too easily found. Instead, I carefully wrapped it in multiple layers of bubble wrap and then placed it inside a small, unassuming cardboard box. I then drove to the nearest post office. My destination for this package? A very remote, incredibly obscure, and frankly quite terrible hotel located in the middle of nowhere, several states away. A hotel I had found after a quick anonymous search for worst hotels in America. I paid for the cheapest, slowest shipping option available. No tracking, no return address. The irony wasn't lost on me. He tried to make my companion disappear, so I would make his companion disappear, slowly, irrevocably, into the postal ether. But that wasn't all. This was just phase 1. Phase 2 involved something far more insidious. I knew he was a stickler for order in his room, almost pathologically so. I wanted to disrupt that, so I took small, almost imperceptible items from his room and moved them. Not hid them, just moved them. His spare phone charger, which he always kept in the top drawer of his nightstand, went into the bottom drawer. His favorite coffee mug, which always sat on his desk, found its way into the kitchen cupboard, tucked behind my less-used blender. His spare pair of glasses, which he wore for reading, migrated from his desk to the bookshelf, placed carefully between 2 thick, dusty tomes. I did this with about 20 different items, each move subtle enough that he wouldn't immediately realize they were missing, but rather that something was just off. He'd know they existed. He just wouldn't be able to find them where they were supposed to be. The goal was to create a pervasive sense of disorientation, a slow burn of frustration and confusion. The final, and perhaps most enjoyable, part of my plan involved Luna. Mark loved Luna, or at least he loved the idea of owning Luna. So, I decided Luna would become his personal furry little agent of chaos. I knew he hated hair, especially cat hair, yet he always wore these dark, lint-attracting sweaters. Before he got home, I gave Luna a good brushing, collecting all her loose fur. Then I sprinkled it strategically on his freshly made bed, inside his clean socks, and even, to my delight, tucked into the pockets of his favorite jacket. Not enough to be immediately obvious, but enough for him to discover later, throughout the week in the most inconvenient places. I also found his spare toothbrush and, with a wicked grin, gently rubbed it against Luna's fur. Again, no real harm, but the thought of him brushing his teeth with a cat hair-laced toothbrush was a small victory in my mind. When Mark finally returned home, he seemed tired, oblivious. The next morning, the chaos began. I heard him rummaging around his room, then a frustrated sigh. Later, he came out, muttering about not being able to find his favorite mug. I just offered a sympathetic shrug. Over the next few days, the small disappearances started to mount. His car keys, usually on his hook by the door, ended up in the fruit bowl. His watch, usually on his dresser, turned up under his pillow. He started pacing, muttering to himself, running his hands through his hair. He even accused me of moving his things, which I, of course, vehemently denied, feigning annoyance at his paranoia. "Why would I move your stuff, Mark? Do I look like I have nothing better to do?" I asked, my voice dripping with false innocence. Then came the big reveal. He needed his external hard drive for a project. I heard him tearing his room apart, a frantic energy emanating from his usually meticulous space. He shouted, "My hard drive. It's gone. I swear I left it here." I walked in, pretending to be concerned. "Your hard drive? Are you sure? Did you check your bag? Your car?" I watched him, a slow, satisfying smile spreading on my face internally, as he grew increasingly panicked. He searched everywhere, under the bed, in every drawer, behind every book. He even called his D&D friends, asking if he'd accidentally left it at their place. Each failed attempt chipped away at his composure. When he finally came to me, wild-eyed and desperate, explaining that years of work were on that drive, I simply looked at him and said, "That's terrible. Mark, maybe you should be more careful with your things." The irony was so thick I could almost taste it. He ended up spending hundreds of dollars on data recovery specialists, trying to find a ghost of his data on his laptop, only to be told it wasn't there. He spent countless hours trying to recreate lost files, working late into the night, looking haggard and defeated. The small moved items continued to plague him, making him doubt his own memory, his own organizational skills. He started leaving sticky notes everywhere, meticulously documenting where he put everything only to find them moved again. His sanity seemed to fray at the edges. The cat hair, too, became a constant source of irritation. He'd find it on his clean clothes, in his food, embedded in his freshly washed towels. He even developed a slight sniffle, convinced he was allergic to Luna, which was ridiculous as he'd never had a problem before. Eventually, the tension became unbearable for him. He was constantly stressed, constantly searching, constantly muttering. He approached me one evening, looking utterly broken. "I can't do this anymore," he said, his voice quiet, defeated. "I think I need to move out. I can't live like this. Things keep disappearing, I can't find anything, and I'm losing my mind." I maintained my poker face, offering a sympathetic, albeit fake, nod. I understand, Mark. This apartment isn't for everyone. He moved out 2 weeks later, leaving behind a trail of half-packed boxes and a lingering scent of desperation. He never asked about the hard drive again, never suspected a thing. He just wanted out. After he left, I slowly started to put his life back together, in a sense. The items I'd moved were returned to their rightful places. The cat fur was vacuumed away. About a month later, I received a notification that a package had arrived at that obscure hotel several states away. I never confirmed it was his hard drive, but I knew. It was a sweet, silent victory. Luna, oblivious to the drama she had inadvertently caused and been a part of, purred contentedly on my lap, her golden eyes shining in the sunlight. I had my apartment back, my peace of mind, and most importantly, my best friend. So that's my story. It might seem extreme, but when someone tries to steal your family, you don't just stand by. You fight back, and sometimes you fight back with a little bit of calculated mischief. I got my revenge, and I got my cat back, and Mark got a taste of what it feels like to have your world turned upside down. Was I a petty person for doing what I did? Maybe, but I don't regret it for a second. Luna is happy, I'm happy, and the apartment is finally a sanctuary again. If you were on my side in this whole crazy mess, please go ahead and like this video. Subscribe for more stories like this because trust me, I've got a few more up my sleeve. And seriously, share your final thoughts on this whole ordeal in the comments section below. I want to know what you would have done. I'll see you all in the next story.